Fine.
Welcome to Unleash Your Voice, episode 3. Today I've got a special guest on. His name is Tony. I'll just give you a bit of a background story on how me and Tony crossed paths. So, a couple of weeks ago, I was invited into a group of amazing people that are part of this up and coming event called the Consciousness Evolution Summit, where there's 20 speakers that are bringing everything they have learned with their modalities that they want to share with the world, that's going to help with the whole healing, holistic ways of healing. There's so many different angles. Today I have Tony, and he wants to share his sort of take on what he wants to share with the up and coming event that we've got coming up. And yeah, I'm just going to pass you on to Tony, and he's going to take it away.
Nice. Thanks, Mark, for having me. My name's Tony Olsen. I am the chief architect of a seasteading group called Freedom Haven that seeks to create a country out in the open ocean where people can have the kinds of levels of freedom that don't exist anywhere else in the world. When I was a kid, I grew up. My dad worked for IBM, and those who work for IBM, International Business Machines, we say it actually stands for I've been moved, because I've lived all over the world and the United States. And I spent 4.5 years in West Germany. And while we were there, we toured all over Europe. And later on, I went on a mission to East Germany. And I got to see firsthand what the different countries were like, and how the different people were doing, prospering, how they're doing emotionally and economically and so forth. And I found it very fascinating that the people in West Germany and the people in East Germany, who are the same family members, ended up so differently after 40 years of being divided by the Berlin Wall. And at the time, it didn't occur to me, it didn't click. I didn't understand why that was the case. But then years later, I came to understand that it was about freedom, that people were not free to innovate and find solutions to life's problems. They were oppressed, basically. And that's when I started to understand the importance of freedom and how it can benefit the world, benefit the people who want to better themselves.
And how did this all come about, this Freedom Haven project? Like, when it comes to opening people up to their creativity and to become that innovator, how did that come about?
Well, I was working. One of my friends online, Nathan, and I were just talking about how just political discussions online about how, wouldn't it be great if we had freedom, and how people would benefit by being able to innovate and being different and having diversity and so forth, and how it's difficult for a country that once it's lost its freedoms to actually get those freedoms restored. People, once they've lost freedom, it's scary to actually have that freedom reintroduced. They envision this worst case scenario that never actually happens. So once you've lost freedom, it's very difficult to actually get it back. So we realized that we actually could take existing technologies and create a floating city of sorts, using the existing cost-efficient methods of shipbuilding from shipyards like Samsung Heavy Industries and so forth, and actually go to somewhere where there is no government jurisdiction, essentially start over with a brand new country.
Yeah, wow. So it's sort of like, changing the whole game, the whole system, and make it your own to allow those people out there that, are wanting to find their creativity and innovate. And yeah, no, that's awesome. So yeah, and so how long have you been in this field for? You've been in this like a long time, and yeah, what's your vision for the future with the projects that you've got going and all of that?
Well, we're still trying to get the design. We've been working on a constitution to provide the highest levels of freedom available, possible in the world, noting that people tend to try to solve problems by using force and compulsion, and it's a tendency that we all have. If there's a problem that comes up, like, well, let's pass a law and we solve the problem. Well, we think we solve the problem, but really make it worse. And so how do we restrict that government from growing in a sense and consuming everything. And so we've been working on a constitution to get that set up. We believe we have a good draft of it right now. It's all online. You can see all this on freedomhaven.org. Also working on a design to try to make this city per unit as inexpensive as possible. Living on the open seas is expensive, unfortunately. That's why people talk about the ultra rich living on their yachts and so forth. We want to make it as cost effective as possible so that we can reach as many of the oppressed people in the world as possible who may not have as much money.
Yeah, wow, that's an awesome movement to have, you know. Yeah. And so yeah, so like with this like consciousness evolution summit, so how are you gonna, you know, what are you going to bring to that summit that's going to help enlighten people? Because that's essentially what this summit's about. We want to wake people up to, you know, financial freedom and all sorts, like, you know, healing and different things. So would you say that, you know, making something cost effective for the general public, that's going to help, you know, people with their, you know, their stress levels are going to go down and they're going to be feeling like they're able to have that more freedom, you know?
In a more perhaps extreme approach, we're hoping to provide a place that people can actually flee to if they are currently in a location where they don't have the freedoms to be able to have the level of diversity that they want in their lives. To be able to have a haven of freedom that they can actually go to. That's why we came up with the word freedom haven.
That's brilliant. I love it. Yeah, wow.
The countries of Hong Kong is a great example of showing how people who were in poverty and they were oppressed and they were having a difficult time like decades ago, like 70, 80 years ago, they were a third world nation. And when they were established after the opium wars, UK, which controlled the area, basically kind of left them alone. They had the highest level of freedom available anywhere in the world at the time. And
Wow.
from that, people like you and me were able to, they were just able to figure out the best way to solve life's problems. I mean, they weren't allowed to murder, kidnap, or steal, but other than that, they could mostly do what they wanted. And they found innovative ways to build wealth, to excel, both intellectually and economically. And now they're one of the richest countries in the world, until recently when they started losing their freedoms again. That's one of the reasons we're trying to be fast with this, because there are 7.5 million people in Hong Kong that are losing their freedoms quite rapidly. And the UK's reached out to them for yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So
That's
we're hoping to
amazing.
get
Yeah, because I'm not educated on all of these things. So I'm sort of just like sitting back and like, you know, letting you sort of educate people out there because yeah, this is the first I've heard of you know, what you've got going on with the, you know, yeah, Freedom Haven. Like that's a genius name. It's awesome. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Have you heard of Tiananmen Square? The Tiananmen Square massacre of 1980, was it 1989? Very anything about
No,
that? Okay.
no, I haven't. Yeah.
A bunch of university students protesting. They wanted to have more freedom in China, and they were basically squished by a bunch of tanks and Chinese military and stuff. It was a very, very, very sad day in history. But
Wow.
in Hong Kong, there are a lot of people like that who've been who are also losing their freedom because Hong Kong's now part of China again, and China is unfortunately they're losing a lot of that freedom. And so it's a timing issue. They have about 2 or 3 more years. So our hope is to have Freedom Haven built, constructed, and out there in the water as a place people go to within 2 or 3 years. And that all depends on, since it's going to be a crowdfunded in a sense, everyone's basically going to be paying for their own place. If you take a huge, expensive, like a mega container ship or something, and those
Yeah.
things cost $160 million. Well, I don't have that kind of money. No one has that kind of money.
No.
But if you divide that into small enough pieces, everyone has the amount of space they want to purchase or lease, then you can break that into smaller bite-sized pieces, and everyone can have their piece of property on such a big ship that they're basically leasing for however long the ship lasts, 10, 20 years, whatever it is. And
Right.
bring the cost down to something that is much more manageable. For
Is
$50,000, you
that
could live there for
challenging?
10 years.
Sorry, Matt. Is that like challenging through these times with the COVID and that? It's challenging to sort of get that movement out there
Yeah.
like such, or
Um,
what's the
it, it's virtual. It's online, so that's one of the advantages. It hasn't been affected by COVID in that sense. Everything, a lot of stuff is virtual nowadays, but it has
virtually?
affected people's morale. People's morale is really taking a dip, and so it's hard to get people to not to basically be engaged and to be active and to keep working on something, not to just binge watch Netflix all day.
You don't want to do that. Oh, it's-
The human innovation, the human ability to survive, to prosper is amazing. Our our ability to take the hardships of life and to come up with innovative ways, competing different innovative ways. I mean, even
Mm.
at this
And there's
summer,
so
we're going to have,
many.
yeah,
There's so
even
many
at the,
different ways you can go.
yeah, even at the summit, we're going to hear all kinds of diverse, different ways and different approaches to better mankind. And it's that kind of freedom to be able to have those kind of differences and explore them and move forward on them is what captures the human spirit. That the land to make it a land of opportunity to be able to to better ourselves and better mankind around us.
Yeah, to be resourceful rather than, say, I don't have the resources to do something. It's like, we've got to, I mean, essentially what COVID's put us all in that thinking, put the thinking cap on and okay, how can I innovate here? How can I like create something out of, whatever I've got, in front of me? So yeah, it's sort of, yeah.
The basics of Freedom Haven is if you the word freedom itself is something that a lot of people interpret differently. They talk about freedom of thought, freedom. It means different stuff. When people say the word freedom, everyone's like, "Oh, freedom's great. We love freedom." But to be very specific, what does actually freedom mean? Freedom Haven has boiled it down to the core essence. And freedom, you are not free if you're dead. You are not free if you're in prison. And even though it's less understood, you're also not free if everything you've built or constructed or put your work into gets destroyed or stolen from you. So basically, you need to have the right to protect your life, freedom, and property. And that's what the freedom that Freedom Haven focuses on. So basically,
That's what that focuses on. Right.
the only laws in Freedom Haven are basically you can't murder, you can't kidnap, and you can't steal. And that's essentially all it is. You can do everything else.
Wow, that's essentially like, that's how I look at it, life in general. I mean, if you're not doing any of those things, then, I mean, freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that, like we should be just free as a spirit to create whatever we want to create, as long as it's
Definitely.
not harming anyone, as long as it's, it's improving humankind, bringing equality, bringing all of that, then that's important, right? So yeah. So yeah, what was I gonna so yeah, like what would you say, you would say that, like, for people out there that might want to be involved in something that you're doing, like what would you say to the listeners out there, to anyone that's going to watch this, out there that wants to learn more about what, Freedom
Uh,
Haven and
check us out at freedomhaven.org, freedomhaven.org. And there's multiple tabs. At the very back, you have one of the tabs is links. You can connect with us on our Facebook group. We have two different groups. One it talks about planning the structure and seasteading is specific in general, and the other one is tailored specifically to role playing different scenarios that the government of Freedom Haven may have to encounter, or including hostile pirates or cartels or other hostile governments, and how we could foster peace and communication between them, and protect the people of New Liberty through various role-playing scenarios. So connect with us on those and add your intelligence and knowledge and experience and questions in with the group. What we've built thus far is because of the voluntary collaboration of all the people that have involved in the group, and we couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah, wow. So and like for the younger generation coming up, that might want to, be a part of this innovation, like this movement, like what would you say to them? What would you say to the ones that are thinking, that are curious, that are on the fence and like wanting to learn more? Like what would you say to those people?
Well, tell us what your interests are. What aspect of this is interesting for you? Is it the living on the ocean? Is it the having freedom? We're going to be utilizing things like Bitcoin. There's not going to be an official currency there. People will be able to have whatever currency they want. I imagine Bitcoin and secondary protocols like Lightning Network and Ethereum and stuff are going to be really big on there, on Freedom Haven, where people can buy and sell. There's not going to be a central government there's not going to be a central bank controlling everything.
And that's enlightening for the listeners out there. That's enlightening for people that are, wanting that freedom of, being able to use their phones and not being censored and all of those things. Like, that's sort of like a relief for people, like hearing that. So, yeah, anyone out there that's listening to what Tony's saying, to have no one censoring what your movements are is just, that's total freedom. That's freedom for me, that's freedom for you, anyone out there. So I mean, yeah, and a lot of people would be interested to know more about the cryptocurrency and all of those things, like, because I'm sure most people of today would know a little bit about it, but they wouldn't know where to start, like where to invest their money. And I mean, that's something that you're learning more about.
Our goal in the next 2 years is to basically build Freedom Haven in three phases. Four phases. The first one is the design that we're working on, and the next one is we're going to, for $20,000, we're going to build ourselves a 1/87 scale model of the entire structure and take it to somewhere like fMRIL, which is an annual meeting of seasteaders in South California, fMRIL.org, I believe. And then the next phase is to take it to the $2 million phase. And what happens is at the $20,000, everyone's going to be, once we build something that the market, the people are say, that looks good, we're ready to move on that, let's proceed. Then we'll have 4,000 people each put $5 in, and that'll build the $20,000 model. And then we can move to the next phase where it's okay, now we're ready to move out and reach out to Samsung Heavy Industries. They actually create their big designs, their big models, and we actually get that whole thing working with $2 million, and that's worth everyone putting $500 in. And at the end, at $50,000, that will get you your own TEU space that you can basically have as your space for the next 10 years on Freedom Haven. Just take it baby steps, one step forward like that, and our goal is to have it done in like 2 years or so. If we can design it in a way that everyone likes and it meets all the requirements of what people are looking for, then this should work. Samsung Heavy Industries builds structures like this every 1 or 2 months. Every 1 or 2 months, they spit out another one of these $160 million vessels. So this is not new. This is all existing technology. They're doing this right now. They're just doing it with different purposes in mind. They're doing it for the shipping industry. They're doing it for the oil industry, whatever it is. Our design would be a little bit
things
different
that affect the environment, right? Like,
yeah,
and for profit to make money, right? But not, not for good reasons.
We believe industries like medical tourism will have medical costs that we would guess would be around 1/10 what you have right now, with a higher quality and faster response than we have right now. Also, we'll have data hosting. Some people think tourism is going to be big. We have a whole list of things that the people talk on what they think will be big and so forth. Fishing, obviously, retirement. We're going to have all the industries. You'll have multiple stores, multiple options for every product and service that you're used to having on land. But instead of like just having one water provider, you can have multiple ones you can choose from. You can have which company you want to buy electricity from, which company you want to buy your groceries from. There's going to be multiple stores, different ways you can do that. There's going to be so much variety and so much diversity in this, because there's not going to be any regulations or controls telling some people how or when they should sell stuff. People can choose for themselves how they want
Wow.
to provide or get these services and products.
That is amazing. So it's just like expanding that, expanding the mind of many to open up that imagination to think of the possibilities, rather than look at things and go, it's all doom and gloom. It's like, we're stuck, we're trapped, we're in a prison right now, I mean, that's comforting hearing that for me, like, and anyone out there, like, this is why it's so valuable, what Tony is saying. It's like what he's got to share with the world is so valuable. And it's more of a necessary, like, this information is a necessary to listen to want to learn, because this is where the world's going, with the crypto and with, what you're saying. And yeah, I mean, it's essential that we learn about these things. Otherwise, would you say, Tony, we will be left behind? We'll be left behind if we don't
Yeah,
adapt to
definitely.
the environment and things changing. We're going to be left behind, like, like our
What
parents were when technology came in, like with phones and that. They were like dinosaurs coming in trying to learn things. I mean, essentially, if we're not adapting, where does that
what
leave us, right?
one thing that really caught my attention when I was serving a mission in East Germany was not just the poverty that was there, but also just the people. Um, it was the people had been would get punished if they would excel, and they got paid. Their lives were paid for if they didn't do anything. So basically, their whole reason to flourish, to excel in life, was kind of being muted. They their brains, it's kind of like, if you imagine watching TV all day long for years at a time, would kind of shut you down. This is
Mm.
kind of what their society did to them. They basically had their spark of life was muted. Their spark of life was quenched, and it was like they were kind of asleep, if that makes sense. And I
Mm.
can imagine the people in Freedom Haven, after this is established, would be the most bright, open, happy, positive, connected people that you would ever meet anywhere, because they'll be using the full capacity of their brains to innovate and to they'll be connected. They won't be muted. They won't be oppressed or suppressed. They'll be the people that are
Mm.
working. They'll have the being able to reach their greatest potential more than they would otherwise be able to.
Yeah, and when you say like suppressed and all of that, because in society right now, there's a lot of like, programs to sort of dumb society down. Would you say that's true? Like,
Yeah.
for us humans to not even realize our own potential and what we're capable of. And so yeah, that's I mean, that's enlightening for people out there that want to learn more about this. And yeah, I mean, that's where the world's going. We need the information. We're in a world of information, like age of information. And so it's vital that people out there, listen to you, Tony, and what you've got to say. Like, I mean, I'm just like in awe, going, whoa, like, this is just mind blowing. Um, yeah.
The jurisdiction, the existing jurisdiction of the world, every country has its own jurisdictions, but the jurisdiction extends out to the water, what they call exclusive economic zone, to 200 nautical miles. But there's the majority, half of the world is unclaimed. There's no jurisdiction of those areas, so anyone can go out there and basically establish their own society. And in a sense, people have been doing that for thousands of years,
Mm.
having cities and boats and so forth on the ocean. So what we're doing is not really that different from them. We're just utilizing the latest technology and the latest cost efficiency. So instead of it being very expensive, it can be much cheaper.
Yeah, that makes it easier. I mean, and that's what we want to create. We want to create that wealth consciousness, people growing. And I mean, abundance is our birthright. That's what we both know. Abundance is our birthright. So, yeah,
Prosperity is great.
yeah, definitely. Well, I think that might, wrap it up for today. Don't want to keep it too long. Just get that powerful message out there for the listeners. And I'm super excited. I just want to let everyone know I'm super excited I'm just excited to be a part of, you know, this amazing group of people that are sharing all of their, tools and modalities and that want to help shift consciousness, help shift the world in, living with prosperity and health and all of those things that, we deserve as humans, right? Have freedom. So yeah, I just want to thank everyone for listening to this conversation. And anyone that wants to reach out to Tony or me and wants to know more about this consciousness evolution summit, where would they reach you, Tony, when it comes to this event that you're going to be speaking at? Where would people reach you?
Um, the link to the event can be included in the description. The Consciousness Evolution Summit will be linked in the description below in YouTube. And if anyone wants to find out more about Freedom Haven, just go to freedomhaven.org, and all the links and stuff are in there as well.
Beautiful. Okay, well there you go. There, can't even spit it out. There you go. So that concludes today's episode of Unleash Your Voice. And for next time, enjoy your day.
Thank you very much.
So,